It happens in the space between one breath and the next. Not a thought exactly. Not a decision. More like a small, unwanted awareness. The kind that settles in the body before it finds language. She notices the way the room feels wrong when the door closes. Not empty. Not quiet. Different. There's a mug on the counter that doesn't belong to her. Still warm. A faint ring of coffee left behind like a careless fingerprint. She doesn't touch it. She stands there longer than necessary, jacket still on, key still in her hand, listening to a low hum she can't quite place. Maybe the refrigerator. Maybe her own blood. Something in her chest tightens. Not sharply. Not dramatically. Just enough to register. She has learned over time to catalog these sensations without naming them. To set them on an internal shelf. To promise herself she'll come back to them later. Later never comes. The phone vibrates in her pocket. She already knows who it is before she looks. There's a specific kind of anticipation that arrives with certain names. A quiet shift in temperature. A softening she doesn't ask for. The message is simple. Still at work. Might be late. No apology. No explanation. None required. She types no worries and deletes it. Types okay and deletes that too. In the end she sends nothing. The unsent words sit heavy in her thumbs. She tells herself this is what she agreed to. That agreements are not the same as desires. That wanting something does not automatically mean you deserve it. The logic is clean. Her body is not. There are nights that feel almost ordinary. Shared silence. Music low. A shoulder brushing another shoulder and lingering half a second too long. And then there are nights like this, where the absence feels shaped, where she can sense, with uncomfortable clarity, the outline of someone who is not allowed to exist in daylight. She leans her forehead briefly against the cabinet door. Not in despair. Not in surrender. Just posing, as if waiting for something inside herself to finish forming. She doesn't yet know what it will ask of her. Only that whatever this is, it isn't staying small. Not anymore. The rain had been going for hours, steady enough to make the windows feel thinner, like the glass was only pretending to separate the loft from the rest of Seattle. Riley stood barefoot on the concrete floor with her jacket still on, the leather holding the chill the way a memory holds a grudge. Her phone lay face down on the counter beside a bowl that had once held ramen, and now held nothing but the faint, sweet, salty ghost of broth. She had rinsed it. She hadn't washed it. Not yet. The mug was still there too. Maddie's, the one she always reached for without thinking, the one with the chipped rim that Riley kept meaning to replace but never did. It sat by the sink as if it belonged. As if it had always belonged. The warmth in the ceramic had faded, but the ring it left on the counter hadn't. Riley lifted the mug and turned it a 1/4 inch. Then another 1/4 inch, aligning it with the edge of the sink the way she aligned everything when she couldn't align the thing that mattered. She set it down and listened. Not for the rain. For the stairwell. For the soft scrape of Maddie's heel against concrete. The pause at the keypad. The door downstairs buzzing. She told herself, not for the first time, that she wasn't waiting. She was just still. The buzzer didn't come. The phone didn't light. Riley's jaw tightened. She reached for the dish soap, squeezed a ribbon into the bowl, and turned on the tap. The water arrived cold, then warmed, then ran steady, constant, indifferent. She scrubbed the bowl too hard, the sponge catching on a spot that didn't exist. It squeaked. She hated that sound. It made the room feel smaller. When she finally heard footsteps, they weren't the clean, direct rhythm she expected. They were uneven. A slight stumble. A stop and start like someone had forgotten, halfway up, why they were climbing. Riley didn't move from the sink. She kept washing, kept her hands busy, kept her face neutral. The loft door opened. Maddie stepped in quietly, as if the air might be breakable. Her blazer was still on, damp at the shoulders, the fabric darkened where rain had kissed it too long. Her hair, usually pinned with such controlled precision, had loosened at the nape. A few strands clung to her cheek like something trying to stay close. Her lipstick was gone. Not smeared. Gone, rubbed away by time and tension in the unconscious way she pressed her mouth against her own knuckles when she was thinking. She held her heels in one hand, her tote in the other, barefoot in thin black socks. Riley didn't turn. She let the water run. Let the silence make its own shape. "Hey," Maddie said. Her voice was soft, but there was effort in it. like she dragged it up 3 flights of stairs with her. Riley kept her gaze on the bowl, watching water bead and slide, watching something clean itself without permission. "You're soaked." "I know." Maddie's laugh didn't land. It fell short and disappeared. She closed the door carefully behind her. The click echoed. Riley shut off the tap. The sudden absence of water made the room feel loud. She turned then, slow, controlled, as if speed might reveal too much. Maddie stood near the entryway, shoulders slightly hunched, clutching her own body with the kind of self-containment Riley recognized too well. Her eyes flicked toward the windows, the city beyond them, the rain and lights and movement, then back to Riley. "I'm sorry I'm late," she said. Riley waited. Not because she didn't know what Maddie meant, but because she wanted Maddie to finish the sentence. Wanted the apology to find a real edge. Maddie swallowed. "It ran long." "What ran long?" Riley asked, and her voice didn't sound cruel. It sounded tired. Which was worse. Maddie's eyes dropped to Riley's bare feet, to the way Riley's toes curled slightly against the cold floor. Then up again, a quick, guilty glance. "Work." Riley nodded once. "Of course." Maddie's mouth tightened. She set her heels down by the wall, like they were evidence. She slid her toe off her shoulder. Her movements were careful, practiced. The way she moved in Riley's space was never careless. She never took up room without permission. Riley wanted suddenly, sharply, to see Maddie be thoughtless. To see her drop her bag in the middle of the floor. To see her take off her blazer and fling it over the couch. To see her behave like a person who believed she belonged. Instead, Maddie hung the blazer on the chair by the counter and smoothed the sleeves as if she could smooth herself into calm. Riley watched her do it. Watched the ritual. Felt the familiar pinch behind her ribs. "Tea?" Riley asked, because it was the thing she could offer without asking for more than Maddie could give. Maddie nodded too quickly. "Yeah, that sounds good." Riley pulled 2 mugs from the cabinet, then hesitated, her hand hovering, because she had reached automatically for Maddie's chipped mug and realized it was already by the sink. Already there, like a quiet accusation. She took it anyway. She filled the kettle and set it on the burner. The click of ignition, the low rush of flame, the soft beginning of heat. Ordinary sounds. Comforting and unbearable at once. Maddie sat on the edge of the couch without taking off her work clothes. She folded her hands in her lap. Her knees pressed together, posture perfect even in private. She looked around the loft like she was trying to find proof of what she'd missed, proof of what she still had. Riley busied herself with tea bags with honey, with the spoon she always used that had a dent in the handle. She measured out sweetness like it could change the taste of anything else. Behind her, Maddie spoke, then stopped. Riley didn't turn. "What? It's nothing." Maddie's voice went smaller. "Just, I missed you." Riley felt the words hit her like warmth does when you're too cold. A relief that immediately becomes pain. She stirred honey into 1 mug and watched it disappear. "You missed me," she repeated, careful. Maddie exhaled through her nose. A shaky thing. "Yes." Riley poured the hot water. Steam rose and fogged the inside of her glasses. She took them off, wiped them with the hem of her shirt, put them back on. Anything to delay turning around. When she finally carried the mugs over, she set Maddie's down first. Her fingertips brushed Maddie's knuckles, accidental, fleeting. Maddie flinched like electricity, then held still as if afraid to move would break it. Riley sat beside her, not close enough for their thighs to touch, not far enough for space to feel honest. The tea was too hot. Maddie didn't sip. She just held it, palms cupped around warm. Riley watched her hands. The nails, manicured, pale. The ring she wore sometimes in public, never here, was absent. The skin between her thumb and forefinger was slightly red, like she'd been gripping a pen too hard. Or a steering wheel. Was it him? Riley asked, and she hated how calmly she said it. Maddie's eyes flicked up. Who? Riley's mouth curved in something that wasn't a smile. The guy whose name you never have to say. Maddie's shoulders rose, then dropped. Brandon isn't. Riley cut her off with a quiet shake of her head. I'm not asking if he is something. I'm asking if work ran long because your office decided to keep you, or because you let someone keep you. Maddie stared at her tea as if it contained a better answer. Her throat bobbed. She swallowed again, slower this time, like she was swallowing down something bigger than words. I had dinner, she said finally. Riley's pulse ticked sharp. With him? Maddie's gaze came up. With clients. And he was there. The words came out clipped, lawyerly, structured for defense. It was a firm thing. I couldn't just leave. Riley leaned back against the couch. She felt the leather jacket creak slightly, the sound too intimate in the quiet. You couldn't, she echoed. Maddie's eyes went glossy. Not tears, almost. A sheen like rain on pavement. Riley. Riley looked at her then fully. Maddie's face was open in the way it only was here, in this loft where nobody could see her except Riley. In the softness of her mouth, the faint tremor at the corner. In the tension of her jaw as she tried not to ask for what she needed. Riley could feel herself sliding into that familiar role. The one where she made everything easier, gentler, less sharp. The one where she became a place Maddie could rest without being asked to stand up anywhere else. Riley set her mug down on the coffee table carefully, as if noise might turn into a fight. I hate that I can tell, she said, quiet. Maddie blinked. Tell what? When you've been touched, Riley said. Not accusing. Not explicit. Just honest. Not like this. She gestured vaguely between them, toward the air that held all the things they did and didn't do. Different. Maddie's breath caught. It was small, but Riley heard it anyway. Maddie's fingers tightened around the mug. Nothing happened, she said quickly. God, nothing happened. Riley didn't answer right away. She let silence do what it always did in this room. Expand. Maddie shifted, uncomfortable in it. She always tried to fill silence with reassurance. With explanations. With the promise that nothing was wrong, because admitting something was wrong felt like opening a door she couldn't close. Riley had learned to sit inside silence. It was part of her. It wasn't comfortable, but it was real. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on wet asphalt. Somewhere upstairs, someone laughed, muffled, distant, like another life happening without permission. Riley stared at Maddie's mug, at the chipped rim, at the place Maddie's mouth always went. She imagined the imprint of Maddie's lipstick there, imagined the way Maddie's lips looked when she stopped trying to be perfect, when she let her body speak first. She thought unexpectedly of the first time she'd seen Maddie. Not the first time she'd spoken to her. The first time she'd truly seen her. A room full of light and neon. Fremont's damp streets outside. Inside the gallery, the air smelling like paint and wine and electricity. Riley holding her camera up and catching faces, hands, the glow of art reflected in pupils. Maddie standing too straight near an installation, a corporate blur in a room built for chaos. Her gaze had been fixed on a ribbon of neon bent into words that almost made sense. Riley had watched her frown slightly, then soften, like something in her had been touched without consent. When Maddie had turned and caught Riley looking, she'd looked away immediately. Not flirtatious. Not coy. Afraid. But she hadn't moved. That was what Riley couldn't forget. She hadn't moved. Here now, Maddie's eyes held the same fear. The same pull. The same refusal to step back even when stepping forward might ruin everything. Maddie spoke into the silence, voice breaking. I didn't want to come late like this. Riley looked at her. But you did. Maddie flinched. Then her shoulders sagged, the perfect posture collapsing by degrees. I didn't have a choice. Riley's laugh was quiet, almost soundless. You always have a choice. Maddie's eyes flashed. Not anger, something sharper. Do you think I don't know that? Riley held her gaze. Then why do you act like you don't? For a moment, Maddie looked like she might stand up and leave. Like she might retreat into the story she told everyone else. The one where she was fine and normal and safe. But she didn't move. She stayed. Her voice when it came was rawer than before. Because when I choose you, she whispered, everything else starts falling apart. The words landed and did not bounce. They settled, heavy, in the space between them. Riley felt her body respond before her mind did. A heat in her chest. A tightness in her throat. The urge to reach out and hold Maddie's face. To smooth her hair back. To make her feel brave. To make her feel forgiven. Instead, Riley kept her hands on her own knees. She stared at Maddie's mouth and forced herself to look away. The rain kept going. The city kept existing. Maddie's phone buzzed on the couch cushion beside her, a bright rectangle of light. Maddie froze. Riley didn't need to see the name on the screen to know. Maddie's entire body tightened like a wire pulled too taut. Maddie didn't pick it up. She just stared at it, eyes wide, breath shallow. Riley watched her. Watched the war happen silently across Maddie's face. The screen went dark again. Maddie exhaled as if she'd been underwater. Her eyes filled finally and one tear slipped down her cheek without permission. She wiped it quickly with the back of her hand as if erasing evidence. Riley's stomach twisted. "You don't have to," she started, and then stopped because she didn't know what she meant. "You don't have to answer. You don't have to lie. You don't have to keep doing this." None of it was true. Maddie leaned forward and set her mug down with a careful clink. Then she reached into her tote and pulled out a small container, the kind takeout comes in, and held it out like an offering. "I brought you something," she said, voice quiet. "From that place you like. The one with the dumplings." Riley looked at it. The gesture was so maddeningly domestic, so tender, so normal. As if you could carry someone's favorite food into their home and make the rest of the world stop pressing in. Riley took the container anyway. Their fingers brushed. Maddie's fingertips were cold. "Thank you," Riley said, and she meant it. That was the problem. They ate on the couch with the rain as soundtrack, passing chopsticks back and forth, knees still not touching. Maddie took small bites like she didn't trust hunger. Riley ate more because if she didn't eat she would do something else, something worse like ask for the truth. At one point Maddie's sleeve slipped back and Riley saw a faint mark on her wrist. Not a bruise. Just a pressure line, like someone had held her arm too tightly for too long. Riley's chest went tight again. She didn't speak. She didn't reach. Maddie noticed Riley looking and tugged her sleeve down immediately, her face flushing. The shame was quick, automatic. It made Riley's stomach churn. Riley set her chopsticks down. "Do you ever get tired," she asked softly, "of being two different people?" Maddie stared at the dumpling in her chopsticks as if it might answer. She swallowed without eating it. "I don't know how to be one." Riley's throat ached. She looked toward the windows, toward the dark water of the Sound, toward the distant lights that looked like they belonged to a different city entirely. "I do," Riley said, and the words were steady. "I know how to be one." Maddie's eyes flicked to her, sharp, wounded. "That's not fair." Riley's mouth tightened. "What's not fair is watching you come alive in this room, and then watching you leave it like you were never here." Maddie's breath hitched. She shook her head, small and desperate. "I'm here, at night," Riley said. Silence again. Longer this time. It settled like fog. The radiator clicked. Somewhere, a siren rose and fell. Someone upstairs dragged a chair across the floor, the scrape loud enough to feel like an interruption. Maddie's eyes stayed on Riley, and there was something in them that looked like pleading. Like apology. Like love, caught behind glass. Riley felt the familiar pull, felt herself beginning, even now, to make room for Maddie's fear. To soften her own edges so Maddie wouldn't cut herself on them. She hated herself a little for it. Not because it was wrong to be gentle. Because it was automatic. Because it meant she was already losing. Maddie shifted closer by an inch. Not enough to touch, but enough that Riley could feel the heat from her body. Maddie's hand hovered, uncertain, then settled on the couch cushion between them, palm up, not grabbing, not demanding. Just there. An invitation that wasn't spoken. Riley stared at that hand. At the clean nails. The faint tremor. The courage it took to offer even this. Riley's body answered first. Her breath changed. Her skin prickled where Maddie's warmth reached her. Her own hand twitched on her knee. She did not take Maddie's hand. Not yet. Instead, she let her gaze linger on the small space between their fingers. The gap that held everything. The gap that had been shaping her life for months without either of them naming it. Riley looked up at Maddie and something inside her shifted. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in a way that felt like a door being unlocked. Not opened. Unlocked. "I can't keep pretending this is enough," Riley said, voice barely above the rain. Maddie's face tightened, pain blooming fast. "Riley." Riley felt the words repeat inside her, like a beat she couldn't escape. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. She swallowed, eyes burning, and looked away before Maddie could see how close she was to breaking. Outside, the rain kept falling like it had all the time in the world. Inside, Riley's attention fixed on one impossible thing. The way Maddie's open hand waited between them, patient and terrified, as if it already knew what Riley was about to ask for. The space between their hands does not close. Not right away. Riley keeps her gaze angled toward the windows, toward the city smeared into watercolor by rain, but she can feel Maddie's open palm like a small gravity well. It hums. Not loudly. Just enough to pull at the edges of Riley's awareness. Not enough. The words echo again, softer now. Less like an accusation and more like a fact that has always been true. Maddie doesn't withdraw her hand. That might be the most difficult part. She leaves it there, palm up, vulnerable in a way she rarely allows herself to be. No pressure. No insistence. Just presence. Riley's breath moves in and out. In, down. Out. She counts without meaning to. 3. 4. The radiator clicks again. The rain shifts tempo, heavier for a moment, then easing back into its steady persistence. Riley finally turns her head. Maddie is watching her. Not with expectation. Not with hope. With something quieter. Something almost careful. As if she is afraid that wanting too much will make Riley disappear. Riley hates that look. Because she knows it too well. She reaches out before she can talk herself out of it. Her fingers don't lace with Maddie's. They barely touch at first. The pads of Riley's fingers brush the center of Maddie's palm, a testing contact. A question. Maddie inhales sharply. Riley feels it through their skin more than she hears it. Riley lets her hand settle. Not gripping. Not claiming. Just resting there. The contact is simple. It is not simple at all. They sit like that for a long time. Long enough that the city outside continues its indifferent choreography. Long enough that the dumplings go cold. Long enough that Riley becomes aware of the exact place where Maddie's thumb is lightly brushing the side of her hand, not moving, not still. A barely there tremor. Riley's body responds in small, traitorous ways. Her shoulders loosen. Her jaw unclenches. Her weight shifts imperceptibly toward Maddie. She doesn't comment on any of it. Maddie doesn't either. Eventually Maddie speaks, voice low. Did you eat today? Riley blinks. The question is so ordinary it almost hurts. Yeah, Riley says. I grabbed something before my set last night. Maddie nods as if filing that away. What did you play? Riley exhales a soft, humorless laugh. Nothing anyone asked for. Maddie's mouth curves small. You never do. That's kind of the point, I know. Maddie's thumb presses a fraction more firmly against Riley's hand. I like that about you. The words land gently. They stay. Riley looks at their joined hands, then at Maddie. You don't like it enough to let people see you like it. Maddie flinches. But she doesn't pull away. That's not. Maddie starts, then stops. Her mouth opens, closes. She tries again. I do like it. I just can't afford to, Riley finishes. Maddie swallows. I don't know how to make those two things exist at the same time. Riley studies her face. The faint dark circles under her eyes. The tension she carries even when she's sitting still. The way she always looks like she's preparing for impact. You don't look like someone who doesn't know how, Riley says. You look like someone who's afraid to try. Maddie's eyes shine. That's worse, Maddie whispers. Riley doesn't argue. They sit with it. The silence between them is not empty. It's layered. Thick with all the conversations they've had, and all the ones they've avoided. After a while, Maddie leans forward to pick up her mug again. She keeps hold of Riley's hand as she does it, an awkward stretch, but she doesn't let go. Riley lets her. Maddie blows on the tea, takes a careful sip, then grimaces slightly. It's too hot. Riley snorts despite herself. You always say that, because it always is. Riley's mouth lifts. It's small. Unintentional. Maddie notices anyway. Her gaze lingers on Riley's face, like she's memorizing a detail she's afraid she'll lose. Riley becomes acutely aware of her own mouth. The way she's breathing. The closeness. She shifts back half an inch. Maddie notices that too. She doesn't comment. She just adjusts her posture to match the new distance. That quiet accommodation hits Riley harder than any argument could. They finish eating in fragments. Dumpling here. A sip of tea there. No rush. No hunger, really. Just something to do with their hands besides holding each other. When Riley stands to take the empty container to the kitchen, Maddie's hand lingers around Riley's fingers for a second longer than necessary before letting go. Riley feels the absence immediately. She rinses the container at the sink. The water runs. She stares at the drain like it might tell her what she's supposed to do next. Behind her, Maddie kicks off her socks. The small domestic sound lands softly in the room. Riley doesn't turn right away. She hears Maddie stand. Feels her presence shift closer. Not touching, but close enough that Riley can feel Maddie's warmth at her back. "I can sleep on the couch," Maddie says. Riley closes her eyes. "You always say that." Maddie's voice is almost a smile. "You always say I don't have to." Riley turns slowly. Maddie is standing there in her work pants and blouse, hair even messier now, mascara faintly smudged beneath her eyes. She looks tired. She looks vulnerable. She looks like the person Riley fell in love with. Riley's chest tightens at the thought. She doesn't say the word. Instead, she says, "You can stay." Maddie nods, relief flashing across her face so quickly Riley almost misses it. They move through the small routine they've built over months without discussing it. Riley grabs an extra toothbrush from the drawer. Maddie changes into one of Riley's oversized t-shirts. Riley changes into worn sweats and a tank. They brush their teeth side by side, not looking at each other in the mirror, like eye contact might turn into something heavier. They climb into bed. They do not touch. Not at first. They lie on their backs staring at the ceiling. The rain has softened. Not stopped. Just gentler. Riley becomes aware of Maddie's breathing. A little uneven. Like she's trying to control it. Riley rolls onto her side without thinking. She faces Maddie. Maddie is already facing her. They freeze. Not in fear. In recognition. Riley lifts her hands slowly, deliberately, giving Maddie time to pull away. Maddie does not. Riley tucks a loose strand of hair behind Maddie's ear. The gesture is tender. Familiar. It feels heavier than it should. Maddie's eyes flutter closed for a second. When they open, there are tears. Not falling. Just there. Riley swallows. "Don't," she says softly. "Don't what? Don't look at me like that." Maddie's mouth trembles. "Like what?" "Like I'm home," Riley says. The words slip out before she can stop them. The room goes very still. Maddie doesn't look away. "I don't know how else to look at you," she whispers. Riley's chest aches. She shifts closer. Not close enough for their bodies to fully touch. Close enough that Riley can feel Maddie's breath on her lips. They stay there. Hovering. Not kissing. Not pulling back. Suspended in the space where everything is possible and nothing is allowed. Riley rests her forehead lightly against Maddie's. The contact is feather soft. Enough to feel. Enough to ruin them. Maddie's hand finds the side of Riley's waist. Tentative, warm, not moving. Riley's hand cups Maddie's jaw. No pressure. No claim. Just contact. Riley thinks with sudden clarity that she could live inside this moment for a very long time. That thought terrifies her, because it means this moment is already not enough. Riley closes her eyes. Maddie closes hers too. Neither of them moves. Neither of them speaks. Outside, a car passes. Somewhere, a door slams. Life continues. Inside the bed, inside the narrow space between two women who love each other and are afraid of what that love demands, everything stays perfectly, exquisitely unresolved. Morning comes the way it always does in Seattle, without announcement, just a gradual thinning of dark. The rain has stopped, but everything outside looks rinsed. The street below glistens, the trees heavy with drops that fall now and then like afterthoughts. The light that slips through the loft windows is pale and cautious, as if it isn't sure it's welcome. Riley wakes before Maddie. She always does when Maddie stays. Part instinct, part habit. Part something sharper she doesn't like naming, the need to witness the moment before Maddie becomes the version of herself that can leave. Riley lies still on her side, facing Maddie, her arm tucked under her own pillow. Their foreheads are no longer touching. Sometime in the night they shifted, separated by the smallest margin, an inch of air that feels like a rule. Maddie's hair is spread across the pillow, darker where it's still damp from showering late. Her mouth is slightly open in sleep, the tension usually held there softened by unconsciousness. Her hand rests near Riley's waist, not touching, but close enough that Riley can feel the heat of it. Riley watches the rise and fall of Maddie's chest. Counts it again. In. Out. In. Out. It is a kind of prayer she doesn't believe in but keeps performing. When Maddie finally stirs, it's subtle. A swallow, A small shift of her shoulder, the faint crease forming between her brows as she moves toward waking. Riley does not move. Maddie's eyes open slowly. For a second there is no panic. No calculation. Just awareness. She looks at Riley like she's remembering something sweet. Then the room sharpens around her. Riley sees the exact moment it happens. The flicker behind Maddie's eyes, the quiet armor sliding back into place. Maddie inhales and freezes, as if the breath might make a sound too loud. Riley's voice comes out gentle, unhurried. "Hey." Maddie's mouth lifts a little. "Hey." The word is soft enough to be private. They lie there. The city exists. The light keeps growing. Maddie's gaze drops briefly. Riley's collarbone, the strap of her tank, the line of her shoulder. Maddie's throat moves as she swallows again. Riley feels her own body respond in small, unwilling ways. Her skin warming, her stomach tightening, her breath slowing as if trying to match Maddie's. Maddie's fingers twitch once, like she wants to reach forward and is stopping herself. Riley lets the silence hold them. It would be easy, too easy, to turn this into a question, to ask what last night meant, to press for definition. But Riley knows Maddie. Maddie will answer with careful language and law school logic. Maddie will find a way to make it sound manageable. Riley doesn't want manageable. She wants real. She wants daylight. Maddie shifts back slightly, creating more space between them. The inch becomes 2. Riley feels it like cold air against skin. "I should probably." Maddie starts. Riley cuts in quietly. "Coffee first, toy." Maddie blinks. "What?" Riley's voice remains steady. "Coffee, shower, you can go be perfect after." Maddie lets out a breath that's almost a laugh. Almost relief. "Okay." Riley gets up first. She pads across the concrete floor, hair messy, body warm from sleep. She reaches for one of her leather jackets out of habit, then stops, lets it hang. This morning doesn't need armor. Not in her own place. She fills the kettle, sets it on the stove. The familiar clink, the rush of water, the click of the burner. Behind her, Maddie sits up slowly and pulls the blanket around her like a shield. She watches Riley's back. Riley can feel it. Riley pulls mugs from the cabinet and, without thinking, takes Maddie's chipped one again. That same stupid tenderness, keeping something imperfect because it holds a familiar mouth. Maddie speaks from the bed, voice cautious. "Did you sleep?" Riley glances back. "A little." Maddie nods like that matters. Like it's data she can use to make sense of what they are. Riley leans on the counter, waiting for the kettle to heat. She watches the steam start to rise. She doesn't look at Maddie directly, but she doesn't hide either. Maddie finally stands. She crosses the loft slowly, barefoot, the oversized shirt brushing her thighs. The sight of her in Riley's space, wearing Riley's clothes, is so intimate it almost makes Riley angry. Not at Maddie. At the world that keeps this from being ordinary. Maddie stops near the window, looking out at the wet street. She wraps her arms around herself. Riley watches her profile, her jaw clenched, her mouth pressed tight like she's holding back words. "Do you ever think about what it would be like," Riley asks softly, "if you didn't have to leave like you're escaping?" Maddie's shoulders tense. She doesn't turn around. "I do." Riley's chest tightens. "And?" Maddie's voice is quiet. "And it makes me feel reckless." Riley hears the fear underneath. She stirs the coffee grounds in the French press. Reckless isn't always bad. Maddie turns then, her eyes sharp and tired. "It is when you're the only one who gets hurt." Riley's mouth tightens. "You think I don't get hurt?" Maddie's face shifts to pain, guilt, something raw. "I know you do." The kettle whistles, loud enough to slice the tension. Riley pours the water carefully, her hands steady even as her insides churn. She moves like someone who knows how to keep herself from breaking in public. She brings the mugs over. Hands Maddie hers. Their fingers brush. Maddie's breath catches again, that tiny involuntary betrayal. They sit at the edge of the couch, with coffee between them like a small truce. Maddie sips, then winces. "Too hot." Riley huffs a laugh. "Of course." Maddie looks at her over the mug, eyes softening. "You make it too hot on purpose." Riley arches a brow. "Why would I do that?" Maddie lowers her mug slightly. "So I have to stay longer." The words are simple. They land like a confession. Riley's pulse jumps. She doesn't respond right away because she can't trust her own mouth. She stares at the steam curling upward, then at Maddie's lips, slightly reddened from heat. Maddie's gaze follows hers, and the air thickens. Riley speaks carefully. Do you want to stay longer? Maddie's eyes shine. I want. She stops. Swallows. Her throat works like she's forcing something back down. Riley's voice goes softer, almost a whisper. Say it. Maddie's hands tighten around the mug. Her knuckles go pale. I want to stay, she says finally, the words barely audible. But I don't know how to be that person. Riley leans back. The person who stays. Maddie nods once, tears threatening. The person who doesn't run. Riley's chest aches so badly she feels it in her teeth. She sets her mug down. The movement is slow, deliberate. Then Riley shifts closer on the couch. Not touching. Close enough. Maddie's breath hitches. Riley lifts her hand and rests it lightly on the side of Maddie's neck, right under her ear, where Maddie's pulse beats fast and undeniable. Riley does not squeeze. Does not pull. Just contact. Maddie closes her eyes for half a second as if bracing. Riley's thumb strokes once along Maddie's skin. A tiny movement. A world of meaning. Maddie opens her eyes again and looks directly at Riley. There is fear there. There is longing. There is something that feels like the edge of decision. Riley speaks quietly. Last night, you didn't leave. Maddie swallows. I almost did. But you didn't. Maddie's voice breaks. Because you looked at me like you were done being patient. Riley's mouth tightens. I'm not done caring. I know. Maddie whispers. That's what scares me. Riley's hand stays at Maddie's neck, warm, steady. I'm not asking you to be brave forever, she says. I'm asking you to be honest right now. Maddie's breath shakes. Riley's eyes drop to Maddie's mouth. Maddie's mouth parts slightly. Not an invitation. Not refusal. Just a small loss of control. Riley leans in slowly. Pauses an inch away. Gives Maddie time. Maddie doesn't move away. Her eyes flutter closed. And in that suspended breath, when the world feels held in place by nothing but their restraint, Riley's lips touch Maddie's. It is gentle. It is careful. It is not hungry. It is still hot, in the way heat builds under skin when you've been cold for too long. Maddie's hand rises, trembling, and rests on Riley's wrist like she is checking that Riley is real, like she is making sure she has permission to stay. Riley kisses her again, slow, unhurried, letting Maddie feel the choice. Maddie makes a sound, quiet, involuntary, as if her body is answering before her mind can intervene. Then Maddie pulls back suddenly. Not far. Just enough to breathe. Her eyes open, wide, wet. Riley stays close, forehead nearly touching hers. Tell me to stop, Riley murmurs. If you need me to. Maddie shakes her head quickly, almost desperate. No. Riley's chest loosens on an exhale. Maddie whispers, voice barely there. I don't want you to stop. The words feel like stepping off a ledge. Riley's hand slides from Maddie's neck to her jaw again, thumb brushing the corner of her mouth. Maddie's lips are warm. Soft. Slightly swollen. Riley feels her own body respond, heat blooming low in her stomach, breath turning shallow. She keeps it contained, keeps it gentle, keeps it in the realm of perception. Maddie leans forward again on her own. This time she initiates the kiss. Still careful. Still restrained. But hers. When they separate, Maddie rests her forehead against Riley's, eyes closed, breathing uneven. Riley can hear the city outside. A truck backing up. A distant shout. A dog barking once. Then quiet. World continuity, insistent. Maddie opens her eyes and looks at Riley like she's both terrified and newly awake. I have to go, she whispers. Riley's chest tightens instantly. Maddie adds quickly, before Riley can speak. Not because I want to. Because if I don't, I won't. Riley holds her gaze. Won't what? Maddie's throat works. I won't be able to put the mask back on. Riley's hand remains on Maddie's face, thumb still tracing small absent circles, like she is trying to memorize the texture of this honesty. Riley's voice is quiet. Maybe you shouldn't. Maddie's eyes fill again. She doesn't answer. She just presses a final, quick kiss to Riley's mouth, soft, trembling. And then pulls back, as if distance is the only thing keeping her from drowning. Riley watches as Maddie stands, moves toward her clothes with stiff precision. Blazer. Shoes. Phone. Armor reassembling. But something is off. A slight hesitation. A hand lingering too long on the sleeve. A glance back that contains more than it should. At the door, Maddie pauses. She grips the handle, then releases it, then grips it again. Riley doesn't speak. She lets Maddie be in the moment without rescuing her from it. Maddie turns her head. Their eyes meet. Maddie's voice is barely audible. I don't know how to make this real. Riley's chest aches, steady and familiar. You already did, she says softly. You just haven't admitted it out loud. Maddie's mouth trembles. She looks like she might say something. Like she might step back into the loft instead of out of it. Instead, she opens the door. Cold air rushes in from the stairwell. Maddie looks at Riley one last time, eyes raw, mouth still carrying the trace of Riley's kiss. And then she steps into the hallway and closes the door behind her with careful finality. Riley stands alone in the quiet. The coffee is cooling on the table. The rain-washed light keeps spreading across the floor. And the taste of Maddie, warm, hesitant, unmistakably real, stays on Riley's mouth like something she can't wipe away. The first thing Riley does is wash the mugs. Not because she cares about the mugs. Because the act gives her hands a job. It lets her body pretend there is something to fix. She runs the water too hot. She scrubs the chipped rim until her fingers sting. The soap smells like citrus and makes the kitchen feel briefly clean, almost bright, which only sharpens the ache in her chest because nothing else is clean. Maddie's lipstick isn't on the mug. It rarely is. Maddie is careful even with that. Riley stares at the plain ceramic anyway, as if the absence itself is proof of something. She dries the mug and puts it back in the cabinet. Then she takes it out again, sets it on the counter, moves it a fraction of an inch, aligning it with the edge. Not enough. Thought repeats without permission. Not enough. Riley checks her phone. No messages. She tells herself it's normal. Maddie has meetings. Maddie has a commute. Maddie has an entire life that does not include Riley's name spoken aloud. Riley knows this. Still, the quiet after that kiss feels louder than any music Riley has ever played. She tries to work. She edits photos at her desk. Shots from last weekend show in a basement venue off Pike. Faces half-lit by red bulbs. Bodies pressed close in a way that is casual for them and unimaginable for Maddie. Riley zooms in on hands on bracelets, on the way people touch without asking permission from their own fear. She tries not to think about Maddie's hand trembling on her wrist. She tries not to remember Maddie saying, I don't want you to stop. By late afternoon, the light outside has shifted to that dull Seattle gray that feels like a lid. Riley forces herself to eat something. She fries an egg, burns the edges, eats it standing up. Her phone remains silent. By evening, she has to leave for her DJ set. Capitol Hill is alive in the way it always is. The sidewalks wet with old rain, neon bleeding into puddles. People moving as if the night is something they deserve. Riley walks past couples holding hands. She walks past a group of queer kids laughing too loudly outside a bar. She feels the familiar comfort of belonging and the new, sharp resentment of it. Inside the club, the air is warm and smells like spilled beer and perfume and old wood. Riley greets the bartender, nods at the sound tech, pretends she is just Riley, just the one who plays music, the one who belongs to the night, and not to anyone's daylight. She tells herself Maddie isn't coming. She tells herself she shouldn't want her to. But when Riley steps behind the booth and looks out over the room, her eyes keep catching on the door. The set begins. Riley lets the first track build slowly, bass like a heartbeat under the floorboards. She mixes with steady hands, but her mind is not steady. It keeps flicking back to the loft, to the coffee cooling, to Maddie's mouth, warm and frightened. At some point, Riley checks her phone again. Still nothing. She's halfway through a transition when a familiar name flashes across her screen. Maddie. Riley's fingers falter on the controls just for a second, just long enough for the beat to wobble. She recovers quickly. No one in the crowd notices. Only Riley feels the stumble like a bruise. She steps back from the booth and opens the message. Can we talk tonight? No emoji. No softness. Just the question, stark and dangerous. Riley stares at it for a moment, her chest tightening. She types, come here. Deletes it. Types, come to the loft. Deletes it. She finally writes after my set. Oft. If you can. The reply arrives almost immediately. I'll try. Try. The word sits in Riley's stomach like something sour. Riley finishes the set with a kind of controlled fury. Her tracks grow darker without becoming louder, as if she is letting the room feel what she cannot say. The crowd moves. People laugh. Someone brushes past her booth and grins. Life continues. When the last song fades and the lights brighten slightly, Riley steps down and grabs her jacket. Her hands are steady again, but her body feels too tight, wound around a thin wire. She walks home faster than usual. The air outside is cold. The sidewalks shine. The city looks indifferent and beautiful. By the time she reaches the loft, her heart is pounding. She doesn't turn on many lights, just the small lamp by the couch, leaving the rest of the space shadowed. She changes out of her boots. She does not change her clothes. The leather jacket stays on. She waits. She tells herself she will not wait long. She waits anyway. At 1:07 a.m., the buzzer finally sounds. Riley presses it without thinking. Footsteps on the stairs, quick and uneven. The loft door opens. Maddie stands there, breathless, hair damp again, blazer wrinkled like she wore it all day and forgot it was on her body. Her eyes are too bright. She looks like someone who has been holding herself together with sheer will. Riley doesn't say hello. Maddie doesn't either. The silence between them is immediate, heavy. Maddie steps inside and closes the door behind her. She doesn't take off her shoes. She doesn't hang up her coat. She just stands there, shoulders tense, hands clenched at her sides. Riley's voice comes out low. Did you try? Maddie flinches. I came. Riley's jaw tightens. After trying. Maddie's mouth trembles. Riley, please. The plea is quiet, but it carries the full weight of exhaustion. Riley takes a slow breath. Talk, she says. You said you wanted to talk. Maddie steps forward a fraction, then stops as if she hit an invisible line. Her eyes dart to the couch, the kitchen, the bed beyond, as if the loft itself is full of traps. I can't do this anymore, Maddie says suddenly. Riley goes very still. The words are sharp enough to cut, but they are also familiar. They have hovered between them for months. Riley keeps her voice calm. What is this? Maddie's throat works. The hiding, the lying, the constant splitting of myself. Her eyes fill. The way I walk into your place and become real, and then walk out and become a ghost again. Riley's chest aches. She doesn't move closer. She doesn't rescue Maddie from the edge she's standing on. Maddie swallows hard. My mother called me today. Riley's stomach tightens. About Brandon. Maddie laughs once, bitter. Yes, about Brandon. She looks down at her own hands like she doesn't recognize them. She said she missed him. She said she liked how steady he was. She asked if I was being dramatic. Riley's voice is soft. And you? Maddie lifts her gaze. There is something raw there, something close to rage but turned inward. And I heard myself agree with her. I heard myself say I just needed time. Her voice cracks. I lied so easily I almost didn't notice. Riley feels her own anger rise. Not loud, not explosive. Just a dark, steady heat. Maddie takes a shaky breath. And then I thought about you. Her eyes shine. About this morning. About the way you looked at me like you knew me. Like you weren't afraid of me. Riley's throat tightens. Maddie steps forward again, another small step, as if pulled. And I realized, I can't keep coming here and taking pieces of you like I'm allowed to have you only when it's convenient. Riley's jaw clenches. So, what are you saying? Maddie's voice drops. I'm saying I need to stop. The room goes quiet in a way that feels physical. Riley's hands curl into fists inside her jacket pockets. She can feel her pulse in her fingertips. She forces herself to speak evenly. Stop coming here. Maddie closes her eyes briefly. Stop pretending I can live like this. Riley's laugh is sharp, humorless. So your solution is to go back to your safe life and leave me here with... What? The memory of your mouth on mine? Maddie flinches hard, tears spilling now. No. Then what? Riley's voice rises slightly, not a shout, just a crack in restraint. What is the plan, Maddie? Maddie wipes her cheeks quickly, furious at herself for crying. I don't know. She looks up, eyes raw. I just know something has to change. Riley's chest tightens again. That familiar cycle. Maddie arriving in chaos, asking Riley to hold it, then leaving Riley to carry the aftermath. Riley steps closer finally. Not touching. Just close enough that Maddie's breath warms the air between them. Riley's voice is low. Something has to change, she repeats. Yes. Maddie's lips part as if she's about to speak, then close again. Riley watches her. Sees the effort it takes for Maddie not to reach out. Sees how Maddie's body wants something her mind still fears. Riley's hand lifts slowly, deliberately, and stops in midair, hovering near Maddie's cheek. A silent question. Maddie's eyes flicker to the hand, then back to Riley's face. Maddie whispers, "Don't make it harder." Riley's throat tightens. "I'm not trying to." Maddie's voice breaks. "You do, just by being you." Riley's hand trembles slightly, then lowers. The withdrawal feels like punishment. Maddie exhales as if in pain. "I went to the bathroom at work today," she says suddenly, words spilling now, "and I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't recognize the person staring back." Her voice shakes. She looked empty. Riley's chest aches with something like grief. Maddie continues, quieter. "And I thought, if I keep doing this, I'm going to wake up one day, and I won't even remember what it felt like to be alive." Riley's eyes burn. She swallows hard. "So what do you want from me tonight?" Maddie's gaze locks on hers. "I want you to tell me the truth." Riley's jaw tightens. "You already know the truth." Maddie shakes her head small. "Say it." Riley's chest rises and falls. She feels the weight of the moment pressing down. She could say it. She could say, "I love you. I want you. I want you in daylight. I want you to stop pretending I'm a mistake." But saying it out loud would make it real, in a way that cannot be undone. Riley looks at Maddie, at the fear, the hope, the exhaustion, the fragile bravery. Riley's voice comes out barely above a whisper. "If you leave me again," she says, "I don't know if I'll be here when you come back." Maddie's face crumples. "Riley." Riley holds up a hand slightly, stopping her. "That's the truth." Maddie stands there trembling, tears falling silently, as if the truth is too heavy to hold. She looks at the door, then back at Riley. Her hand lifts an inch, as if she might touch Riley's sleeve. She stops. Her mouth opens. No words come. Riley watches her, heart pounding, breath shallow. Maddie takes one step forward, then another. She is close enough now that Riley can feel the warmth of her body, the tremor of her breath. Maddie's hand rises again, hovering, suspended between choosing and running. And Riley, for the first time in months, does not move to meet her halfway. She waits. Maddie's hand stays in the air, suspended between them like the last note of a song that refuses to resolve. Riley watches it without flinching, without rushing. She can feel her own pulse in her throat, can feel the way her body wants to surge forward and close the distance the way she always has. Always meeting Maddie halfway, always making it easier to choose the dark. But she doesn't move. Not because she doesn't want Maddie, because she wants the truth to be heavier than fear for once. Maddie's fingers tremble. Then slowly, like she's choosing each inch of her own courage, she touches Riley's sleeve. Just fabric at first, then the heat beneath it. A contact so small it should be meaningless. It isn't. Riley's breath catches anyway. Maddie whispers, voice raw, "I don't want to leave you again." Riley's eyes burn. "Then don't," she says simply. Maddie's mouth opens, closes. She swallows hard. "If I stay, it changes everything." Riley's voice is low. "Yes." Maddie's shoulders shake once like a suppressed sob. "I'm scared." Riley nods, almost imperceptibly. "So am I." Maddie's hand slides from Riley's sleeve to Riley's wrist, fingers wrapping around her as if she's anchoring herself to something real. She steps closer, fully this time, closing the last thin gap. Riley can feel Maddie's breath against her lips. She does not kiss her yet. She holds there, letting Maddie feel the weight of being seen and still staying. Maddie's eyes shine. "I told you tonight I needed to stop," she whispers, "and I meant it." Riley's voice barely moves the air. "Stop what?" Maddie's throat works. Stop living like you're the part of me I'm allowed to love only when nobody's watching. Riley's chest tightens so hard it hurts. Maddie continues, shaking with the effort. I can't keep splitting my life into what's safe and what's true. Riley's mouth trembles. Maddie. Maddie inhales like she's about to step into fire. I ended it with Brandon. Riley goes still. When? Maddie's eyes drop. 2 weeks ago. Something loosens in Riley's ribs, relief and grief tangled together. You didn't tell me. Maddie's voice cracks. I didn't want you to think I was doing it for you. Riley's gaze sharpens. Weren't you? Maddie's eyes lift again, honest and wrecked. I was doing it because I couldn't breathe anymore. Riley swallows. And therapy? Maddie's lips press together. I started. Fremont. A woman who doesn't look at me like I'm a disappointment for being alive. Her voice softens. My sister knows. Riley's pulse stutters. She does. Maddie nods once, quick. She was amazing. A tear spills, Maddie doesn't wipe it. She said she wondered when I'd finally stop apologizing for existing. Riley's eyes sting. She says quietly, and your parents? Maddie's face shifts, pain flickering. Not yet, she admits. But I'm going to. Riley takes a slow breath through her nose, grounding herself in the only thing she can control, the truth in front of her. Maddie's fingers tighten around Riley's wrist. I'm not saying this to manipulate you, she whispers, echoing something Riley didn't know Maddie had been practicing in her own mind. I'm saying it because you were right. I don't get to keep you in the dark and call it love. Riley's voice turns rough. You don't. Maddie nods, tears sliding silently. I know. Silence gathers, thick and living. Riley can hear the refrigerator hum, the faint city sounds through the glass, the distant laughter of someone who has no idea what it costs to choose the truth. Maddie's forehead tilts forward until it rests lightly against Riley's shoulder. She exhales like she's been holding her breath for months. I don't know if you can ever trust me, she murmurs into the leather of Riley's jacket. But I'm here. Riley closes her eyes, letting the sensation of Maddie's weight sink into her body. Warm. Real. Trembling. She doesn't forgive her with words. She slides her hand up to Maddie's jaw and guides her face gently upward. Maddie looks at her like she's bracing for the verdict. Riley's voice is quiet. Say it again. Maddie's lips part. I'm here. Riley shakes her head slightly. Not that. Maddie's throat moves. She blinks hard. I choose you, she whispers. Riley's eyes burn. When? Maddie swallows, then says the most difficult word with a shaky steadiness. Day. Riley's breath leaves her in a slow, uneven exhale. Then, only then, she kisses Maddie. It isn't frantic. It isn't hungry. It is hot in the way the body recognizes home after too long in the cold. Maddie's hands slide up Riley's arms, clinging, not grabbing, as if she's afraid Riley might vanish. Riley's thumb strokes Maddie's cheek, wiping a tear without breaking the kiss. When they part, Maddie's forehead rests against Riley's. Riley's voice is barely audible. I told you if you left again I might not be here when you came back. Maddie's breath shakes. I know. Riley opens her eyes. And you came anyway. Maddie's mouth trembles. I had to. Riley nods once, and something inside her settles, not calm, not certainty, but a decision shaped by exhaustion and love. She steps back half an inch and takes Maddie's hand fully this time, lacing their fingers. The simple intimacy feels radical. Come on, Riley murmurs. Maddie follows her deeper into the loft, like she's stepping into a different life. They don't go to the bed right away. They don't rush anything. Riley takes Maddie's coat off slowly, hands brushing Maddie's shoulders, letting her feel what it's like to be touched without hurry. Maddie shivers, not from cold. Riley can feel it. Riley leads her to the couch, and they sit close enough that their thighs press together. Maddie's head tips onto Riley's shoulder with a tired surrender. Riley's arm wraps around her, firm and steady, and Maddie makes a small sound, half relief, half grief. Riley keeps one hand on Maddie's knee, thumb moving in slow, absent circles. A grounding. A reminder, you are here, you are not leaving, I can feel you. They talk in fragments at first. Not the big things. Not yet. Maddie tells Riley there was a comment at the office, a joke that landed like a slap. Riley listens without interrupting, jaw tight, hand still moving on Maddie's knee. Maddie tells Riley she switched departments. Not a promotion. Not a demotion. Just escape. Riley nods, eyes dark, and says quietly, "I'm sorry," in a way that means she understands more than Maddie even said. Eventually, Maddie shifts, looking up at Riley like she's gathering courage again. "There's something I need to ask," she says. Riley's eyebrows lift. "Okay." Maddie's voice is small. "Sloane." Riley's chest tightens. Not jealousy, not anger, just the dull ache of history. "What about her?" Riley asks carefully. Maddie studies Riley's face, searching for what's safe to touch. "I saw you with her," she admits. "At Pike Place." Her voice cracks at the memory. "You looked happy." Riley's eyes flicker. She doesn't deny it. She doesn't weaponize it either. "I was trying," she says softly. Maddie swallows, shame sliding across her expression. "Was she good to you?" Riley exhales. "Yes." Maddie nods as if she deserves that. Then Maddie surprises Riley by saying, "She was selfless." Riley blinks. "Selfless?" Maddie's fingers tighten around Riley's. "She could have hated me," Maddie says quietly. "She could have told me to disappear. But she didn't." She hesitates. "She came up to me the night you were playing and she was honest. It felt like she cared about you more than she cared about winning." Riley's throat tightens. Maddie continues, voice softer, almost reverent. "I thought she was the one who had what I didn't. The courage, the ease." Riley looks at Maddie for a long moment. Then she shakes her head slightly, not unkind. "You're giving her too much credit." Maddie's brows knit. "What do you mean?" Riley's gaze drops to their hands laced together like a promise. "Sloane and I weren't together because it was effortless," Riley says. "We were together because it was survivable." Maddie's eyes widen a fraction. "Riley." Riley's voice is steady, honest in a way that doesn't accuse. "She loved someone else." Maddie swallows. "Who?" "A girl she met in art school," Riley says quietly. "They were together before I even knew Sloane. The girl got engaged, moved to another country." Riley's mouth tightens, a flicker of old pain. Sloane was trying to be okay. She was trying to be loved in a way that didn't reopen the wound every day. Maddie's face softens, guilt mixing with something like compassion. "And you?" Riley looks at Maddie, eyes bright. "And I loved you," she says simply. The words land without drama. They don't need it. Maddie's breath catches, sharp and broken. "Riley." Riley keeps going because the truth deserves completion. "So we comforted each other," she says. "We made something gentle out of 2 losses. It wasn't fake." Riley's thumb strokes Maddie's knuckles. "But it wasn't the thing that rewrote me." Maddie's eyes fill. She looks down, then back up, voice shaking. "I'm sorry." Riley's expression is weary, tender. "I know." They sit in silence for a while after that, letting the truth settle into the room like dust in sunlight. Maddie shifts closer, pressing her forehead to Riley's shoulder again. "Do you think she hates me?" she whispers. Riley's hand slides into Maddie's hair, fingers combing gently. "No," she says. "She doesn't." Maddie's voice is barely there. "How do you know?" Riley's mouth curves, small. "Because she ended things with me before you came back." Maddie lifts her head, startled. "She did?" Riley nods. "The night before, she said she didn't want to be the person someone chooses while thinking of someone else." Riley exhales, eyes soft with gratitude. "She deserved honesty too." Maddie looks shaken, then quietly devastated by the weight of what she nearly missed. "God." Riley brushes her thumb under Maddie's eye, catching a tear. "Don't make a shrine out of what you didn't do," Riley murmurs. "Do the thing now." Maddie nods, trembling. "I'm trying." Riley's gaze holds hers. "Then keep trying." The night does not turn into a single scene. It becomes lived time. They order takeout, tacos from the place Maddie once called your spot, like she had no right to claim it. Riley puts music on low, something slow that feels like late summer even in winter. Maddie sits on the kitchen counter, feet swinging slightly, watching Riley move around the loft with a kind of awe that makes Riley's chest ache. At some point, Maddie laughs, soft, surprised, at something Riley says, and the sound startles them both. It's been so long since laughter felt safe. They drink wine, not too much, just enough that Maddie's shoulders loosen and her voice drops into something less defended. Maddie tells Riley about her therapist's office, plants in the corner, a salt lamp, a bookshelf full of queer memoirs Maddie pretended not to stare at. Riley listens, smiling faintly, and Maddie's eyes keep catching on that smile like it's a thing she's learning to trust. Later, they end up on the couch again, shoes off, legs tangled. Riley's arm around Maddie's waist. Maddie's fingers tracing the edge of Riley's jacket, zipper like it's a map. Riley's mouth on Maddie's temple, then her cheek, then the corner of her lips. Soft, slow, consent-filled, letting Maddie decide every next inch. Maddie decides. The heat between them builds and steadies, not frantic, not performative. Just two women recognizing each other with hands and breath, and the quiet relief of being wanted without secrecy. When they finally move to the bed, it isn't a rush. It's a drift. The loft is dark except for the city glow spilling through the windows. Maddie's face in that light looks like something newly honest. Riley's hands move with careful familiarity, touching like a promise kept. Maddie's breath turns ragged, then slows again when Riley murmurs something soft against her skin. Nothing explicit, just reassurance. Maddie whispers Riley's name like it's both confession and prayer. Riley answers with her mouth, with her hands, with a steady rhythm of staying. Afterward, they lie tangled in sheets that smell like detergent and skin and rain finally gone. Maddie's head on Riley's chest. Riley's fingers drawing idle shapes along Maddie's spine. The world outside continues. A distant siren. A passing car. The city alive even while they are still. Maddie breaks the silence first, voice sleepy and bold in a way Riley hasn't heard from her before. Can I ask you something rude? Riley's mouth curves against Maddie's hair. That depends. Maddie lifts her head, eyes glinting. How was Sloane? In bed. Riley freezes for half a beat, then laughs, low and disbelieving. Excuse me. Maddie's cheeks flush, but her eyes stay on Riley's. I'm curious. Riley narrows her eyes, amused. Why do you want to know? Maddie's mouth twists, half shy, half teasing. Maybe I want to understand what you survived. Riley snorts. Survived. Maddie shrugs, pretending nonchalance, but Riley can see the flicker of insecurity beneath it. Riley's expression softens. She cups Maddie's cheek. Sloane was kind, Riley says carefully. Attentive, present, don't die. She pauses, then adds with a faint smile, but she wasn't you. Maddie's eyes fill instantly, overwhelmed by the simplicity of that sentence. Riley brushes her thumb under Maddie's eye. And before you spiral, Riley murmurs, I'm not saying that to make you feel powerful. I'm saying it because it's true. Maddie exhales shakily. Okay. Then Maddie's mouth lifts, small, mischievous. So she was fine. Riley laughs again, warm this time. She was fine. Maddie settles back onto Riley's chest, satisfied in a way that makes Riley shake her head fondly. I can't believe I asked that, Maddie murmurs. Riley's fingers comb through Maddie's hair. I can. Maddie's voice goes quieter. Do you think she'd ever want to be friends? Riley's eyebrows lift. You're asking if your ex-secret girlfriend and my ex-comfort girlfriend can be friends? Maddie makes a small sound of protest. That's not what I said. Riley hums. It's what you meant. Maddie sighs into Riley's skin. She hesitates. I don't want her to feel like she was just a footnote. Riley's chest warms with unexpected gratitude. She wasn't, Riley says. And she's not fragile. Maddie lifts her head again. Would it be crazy, she asks slowly, to invite her to dinner sometime? Riley stares at her surprised. Like, the three of us? Maddie's cheeks go pink. Not like that. Riley's smile turns wickedly playful. Sure. Maddie's eyes widen. Riley. Riley laughs softly. I'm kidding. She watches Maddie's face, then sobers. Unless you're not. Maddie gapes at her, horrified, and then unexpectedly, she laughs too. A real laugh. A laugh with breath and life in it. Riley blinks, stunned by the sound. Maddie covers her mouth, still laughing, eyes wet. You're impossible. Riley's grin is soft, intimate. You love it. Maddie's laughter fades into a quiet smile, her gaze steady. I do. The words settle in the room like something permanent. They don't make plans that night. Not in detail. But later, days later, after Maddie tells her parents in Bellevue with a voice that shakes but doesn't break, after her mother's silence becomes a careful, slow learning rather than immediate rejection. After Maddie's sister texts, "I'm proud of you like a rope thrown across water." Addie and Riley do, in fact, invite Sloane to dinner. It's not dramatic. It's a message. Honest. Awkward. Human. Sloane replies with a dry joke and a date. The night comes with too much wine and music that moves slowly through the loft like a warm hand. Sloane arrives in a dark coat, smiling like she's already decided she refuses to make this tragic. Maddie, tense at first, relaxes under Sloane's easy grace. Riley watches them both with a strange, grateful calm. 3 beautiful girls in one room, each carrying their own version of love, each refusing to let shame be the only story. At one point, Sloane raises her glass and says, "To choosing the truth even when it's late." Maddie's eyes shine. Riley's hand finds Maddie's under the table, fingers lacing without hesitation. Sloane notices and just smiles, like she's not hurt by it anymore. Later, when Maddie and Riley walk Sloane to the door, Maddie hugs her, quick, sincere, trembling. Sloane whispers something in Maddie's ear that makes Maddie laugh softly through tears. Riley watches, chest tight with something like peace. When the door closes and Maddie turns back, Riley's gaze is waiting. Maddie steps close, presses her forehead to Riley's. "That was good," she whispers. Riley smiles. "It was." Maddie's eyes flicker with that earlier mischief again. "So," she murmurs, "dinner with Sloane was fun." Riley's brow arches. Maddie's mouth curves. "But if we ever do that again..." She pauses deliberately, eyes shining. "It stays at dinner." Riley laughs, low. "Is that a rule?" Maddie shrugs, pretending casual. "I'm learning boundaries." Riley's smile softens into something deeply tender. "Look at you," she murmurs. "Choosing day." Maddie's eyes fill. She nods once. "I'm trying." Riley cups her face. "Keep trying," she whispers. 6 months later, they are on the couch in the loft, a terrible movie playing, the kind with plot holes big enough to swallow a city. Maddie is tucked into Riley's side in sweatpants and an old hoodie. Riley's hand rests on Maddie's thigh, thumb moving in that familiar grounding circle. Maddie's phone buzzes. She glances down, then turns the screen toward Riley. A text from her sister. "Mom asked if you and Riley are coming for Christmas." Progress, right? Maddie's mouth trembles, half laughter, half disbelief. "It's progress," she whispers. Riley's eyes soften. "Are we going?" Maddie looks at her for a long moment. There's still fear there. There probably always will be, residue of a lifetime of hiding. But there's something else now, too. Choice. Maddie nods, steady. "We're going," she says. "Together." Riley exhales, like she's been holding that breath for a year. Her smile is slow, bright. Together sounds good. Maddie's head settles onto Riley's shoulder. The movie keeps playing. The city keeps breathing. And for the first time, the love between them doesn't feel like a secret trying to survive. It feels like a life. A love chosen in daylight, even when the light is imperfect. What is left behind isn't silence. It's the moment you finally stop consenting to it. How many times can a heart ask to be chosen before it stops believing it's allowed to want the sun? Some stories don't end when the moment fades. They stay with us, asking to be felt. If this story awakens something you recognize, you're welcome to share your truth in the comments. And if this journey stayed with you, consider subscribing to Secret Garden Stories and sharing it with someone who might feel seen. Your support helps this space grow. A world with more love, more honesty, and less silence. Thank you for being here.